All right, so we're diving into Monster this time. And wow, um,
Yeah.
this one really goes there. It starts with this quote about a beast rising from the
Oh,
sea,
yeah.
the revelation of St. John the Divine, no less.
It's heavy stuff right from the get-go, and that's what I think is so brilliant about how this series tackles morality. It doesn't shy away from the big questions.
No kidding. So how does a quote like that connect to, well, a monster?
It's all about setting the stage. You've got this biblical image of pure evil, something apocalyptic, and then Monster asks, is that what a monster really is? This external force of darkness? Or is it something much more insidious, something human?
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
And speaking of human, we've got to talk about Dr. Kenzo Tema.
Right, our main man, the brilliant neurosurgeon living the good life in 1980s Dusseldorf.
At the top of his game, engaged to the director's daughter. You'd think he'd be on top of the world.
But there's always a but.
Exactly. And in Tenma's case, it's this growing unease with the hospital. He sees how they're choosing patients not based on need, but on their political clout.
It's that classic ethical dilemma. How do you reconcile your own morals with a system that's clearly flawed?
And for Tenma, this dilemma explodes onto the scene one night when these two kids, Johann and Anna Liebert, are brought in. They were the only survivors of some horrible massacre.
And this is where Monster really sinks its teeth into you, because you've got Johann clinging to life with a head wound.
And little Anna, who's clearly traumatized, talking about killing.
It's chill.
Talk about a heavy situation, right? But as if that wasn't enough, the city's mayor is rushed in, needs emergency surgery. So you've got Tenma, caught between a rock and a hard place. Save the boy or save the mayor.
An impossible choice, and one that will have consequences he could never have imagined.
Because, spoiler alert, he chooses to operate on Johann. The mayor dies, and Tenma's life falls apart. Loses his fiancée, his reputation, his whole world crumbles around him.
It's tragic, really. But it makes you wonder, was he right to save Johann? Knowing what we know now, knowing what Johann becomes.
Did he unleash a monster by trying to do the right thing? It's a question that haunts the entire series.
And just when you think it can't get any more messed up, the director of the hospital, along with some other doctors, those who oppose Tenma's decision, they end up dead.
Wait, what?
Under very suspicious circumstances.
Okay, now we're not just talking about a doctor's crisis of conscience.
Yeah.
This is a full-blown conspiracy.
Exactly.
What started as one impossible choice might have set off a chain reaction with deadly consequences. And we're just getting started.
So Monster kind of jumps ahead 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, 9 years later, we find Tenma back at the same hospital, but now he's chief of surgery.
Wow. Talk about a comeback story. Although I guess comeback isn't exactly the right word here. More like he's trying to rebuild his life piece by piece, still haunted by what happened that night.
Oh, absolutely. The guilt, the trauma, it's all still there, simmering beneath the surface. And that's when this new patient, Adolf Junkers, enters the picture. A seemingly ordinary criminal.
Ordinary.
Well, on the surface, yeah. But there's something unsettling about him, and when he starts muttering about a monster, well, it sends chills down your spine.
Yeah, you got to wonder, is Junkers onto something? Is he picking up on Tenma's past, sensing that darkness?
It's like this subconscious connection, this shared knowledge of something monstrous. And what's fascinating is that even after everything, Tenma still shows Junkers compassion. He sees a person in pain, not just a criminal.
That's going to be tough, right? After being betrayed by his own sense of compassion, you'd think he'd be jaded. But no, he still tries to connect.
It speaks volumes about his character, his unwavering belief in humanity, and for a while it seems like it might actually work. Junker starts to open up to Tenma, revealing these glimpses of his past, his vulnerabilities.
Okay, so maybe there is a glimmer of hope here. Maybe Tenma can actually make a difference in this guy's life.
You'd like to think so, right? But Monster doesn't let you off that easy.
Oh no. What happens?
Tenma returns to the hospital one day, only to find a scene of chaos. The guard, he's dead, and Junkers has vanished.
Are you serious? Talk about a punch to the gut. Just when it seemed like there might be a light at the end of the tunnel?
It's a brutal reminder that darkness has a way of catching up with you, no matter how hard you try to outrun it.
So what does Tenma do?
He follows a trail, a series of clues that lead him to a construction site. And that's where he comes face to face with the true horror of what he's unleashed.
Okay, you're going to have to be more specific. What does he find?
Junkers is there, but he's not alone. He's being held at gunpoint.
By who?
By Johann,
No way. The boy he saved?
the one and only.
This is insane. After all these years, Johann just pops back into Tenma's life.
And it's not a happy reunion, to say the least. Johann is calm, collected, completely in control. He thanks Tenma for saving his life.
Thanks. By holding a gun to another human being.
Yeah, it's twisted. And then, right before Tenma's eyes, Johann pulls the trigger, murders Junkers in cold blood.
I don't even know what I'd do in that situation.
It's like something out of a nightmare. You're confronted with this living, breathing consequence of your own choices. And the worst part is there's nothing you can do to stop it.
So what happens next? Does Johann just, disappear again? Leaving Tenma to pick up the pieces?
Pretty much, Johann vanishes, leaving Tenma literally covered in blood, and of course the police suspect him of murder.
But how do you even begin to explain who Johann is, what he's capable of? It's like trying to convince someone that the boogeyman is real.
It's a losing battle from the start, and it doesn't help that Inspector Runge, the detective on the case, is absolutely convinced of Tenma's guilt.
All right, we can't forget about Runge. Just like a dog with a bone, he's not letting this go.
Nope. And that's the genius of Monster. It's not just a story about one man's quest for redemption. It's about the ripple effects of his actions, how they impact everyone around him.
And speaking of impact, we haven't even talked about Nina, Johann's twin sister.
Right. Nina is fascinating because she represents this glimmer of hope in a story that's otherwise so bleak. She was separated from Johann at a young age, adopted into a loving family. She has no idea about her past, the horror she witnessed as a child.
So she's like this blank slate, a chance for Johann's darkness to be balanced out by something good.
In a way, yeah. But even though Nina has no conscious memory of her past, it still haunts her in the form of these vivid, disturbing dreams. It's like a part of her still remembers the trauma, the darkness.
Man, talk about messed up. So what happens to Nina? Does Tenma try to reach out to her, warn her about Johann?
He does. But it's a race against time. And unfortunately, Tenma's a little too late. Johann gets to Nina first.
Oh, no. You're kidding, right?
He murders Nina's foster parents.
Yeah.
Right in front of her.
This is just brutal. It's like every time there's a chance for things to get better, for someone to escape Johann's influence, he manages to snuff it out.
And that's what fuels Tenma's determination to stop him. He realizes that Johann isn't just a monster, he's a virus, spreading his darkness wherever he goes.
So how do you even begin to fight something like that, something so insidious?
Well, for Tenma, it starts with understanding where Johann came from, how he became this embodiment of evil, and that's where the series takes us to 511 Kinderheim.
511 Kinderheim, what is that, some kind of...
It was this orphanage in former East Germany, shrouded in secrecy. And what went on behind those walls, let's just say it was straight out of a horror movie.
Okay, now I'm really creeped out. What happened there?
Johann, along with other children, was subjected to these horrific experiments. They were trying to create the perfect soldiers, stripping away their humanity, turning them into weapons. It's no wonder Johann turned out the way he did.
So you're saying he was conditioned to be a monster, that this whole time he's been a victim?
It's a complex question, right? Is he truly evil? Or is he a product of his environment, a weapon pointed in the wrong direction?
And as if that wasn't messed up enough, you mentioned something about a children's book.
Right, the picture book. It seems innocent enough at first glance, but it was actually used as part of these twisted eugenics experiments in Czechoslovakia, a way to identify and eliminate anyone deemed unfit for society.
Wow. It's like you said, evil has a way of hiding in plain sight.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's the brilliance of Monster.
Yeah.
It forces us to confront the darkness that exists not just out there in the world, but within ourselves.
Yeah.
It asks us to consider what makes a monster. Is it something we're born with or something that's created? And if so, who's ultimately responsible?
So many questions. And I have a feeling there aren't any easy answers.
Well,
That was intense. Monster has certainly left its mark on us. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive.
right.
It's been enlightening, terrifying, and thought-provoking, all at the same time.
My pleasure. It's a story that stays with you, that's for sure.
It definitely does. And to our listeners, if you're looking for a series that will challenge your perceptions of good and evil, of humanity itself, then Monster is a must-read or watch. Just maybe don't read it before bed.
Sound advice.
Until next time, keep those pages turning and those lights on.